One of the greatest unsolved mysteries in United States, a startling crime that captured the American imagination, inspiring movies, songs, TV shows and books. D.B. Cooper, a name popularly used by media to refer to an unidentified man who hijacked a Boeing 727 aircraft in northwest United States on the afternoon of Wednesday, November the 24th, 1971. He extorted $200,000 in ransom, which is equivalent to more than $1.2 million today, and parachuted to an uncertain fate. Despite a massive manhunt and an extensive FBI investigation, the perpetrator has never been located or identified. It remains the only unsolved case of air piracy in commercial aviation history. On Thanksgiving Eve, November the 24th, 1971, a middle-aged man carrying a black attaché case approached the flight counter of Northwest Orient Airlines at Portland International Airport. He identified himself as Dan Cooper and used cash to purchase a one-way ticket on Flight 305, a 30-minute trip north to Seattle. And as FBI said, thus began one of the great unsolved mysteries in FBI history. Cooper boarded the aircraft and took seat 18C. Though there are several reports about the exact seat number. Some says it was 18E, others says it was actually 15D. But it is widely believed that the exact seat number was 18C in the rear of the passenger cabin. He then lit a cigarette and ordered a bourbon and soda. Fellow passengers described him as a man in his mid-40s, between 5 feet 10 inch and 6 feet tall. He wore a black lightweight raincoat, loafers, a dark suit, a neatly pressed white-collared shirt, a black clip-on tie, and a mother-of-pearl tie-pin. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a note to Florence Schaffner, the flight attendant situated nearest. Schaffner assumed that the note contained a lonely businessman's phone number and dropped it unopened into her purse. Cooper leaned towards her and whispered, "Miss, you would better look at that note. I have a bomb." The note was printed in neat all-capital letters with a felt-tip pen. Though its exact wording is unknown because Cooper later reclaimed it, but Schaffner recalled that the note said that Cooper had a bomb in his briefcase. After Schaffner read the note, Cooper told her to sit beside him. Schaffner did as requested, then quietly asked to see the bomb. Cooper opened his briefcase long enough for her to get a glimpse of 8 red cylinders, 4 on top and 4 on the bottom, attached to wires coated with red insulation and a large cylindrical battery. After closing the briefcase, he stated his demands: $200,000 in negotiable American currency, 4 parachutes, 2 primary and 2 reserve, and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the aircraft upon arrival. Schaffner conveyed Cooper's instruction to the pilots in the cockpit. The pilot, William Scott, contacted air traffic control, which in turn informed local and federal authorities. 36 other passengers were given false information that their arrival in Seattle would be delayed because of a quote-unquote minor mechanical difficulty. Northwest Orient's president, Donald Nyrope, authorized payment of the ransom and ordered all employees to cooperate fully with the hijackers' demands. Schaffner recalled that Cooper appeared familiar with the local terrain because at one point when the aircraft flew directly above Tacoma, he correctly remarked, "Looks like Tacoma down there." He also correctly mentioned that McCord Air Force Base was only a 20-minute drive at that time from Seattle-Tacoma Airport. Schaffner described him as a calm, polite and well-spoken person. Tina Mucklow, another flight attendant, told investigators he wasn't nervous, he seemed rather nice. He was never cruel or nasty. He was thoughtful and calm all the time. He ordered a second bourbon and water, paid his drink tab, and even attempted to give Schaffner the change, and offered to request meals for the flight crew during the stop in Seattle. In Seattle, the passengers were exchanged for the money and parachutes. The flight resumed with only 5 people on board: Cooper, pilot Scott, flight attendant Mucklow, co-pilot Ratzak, and flight engineer H.E. Anderson, en route for Mexico City, with the plane flying no higher than 10,000 feet as he demanded. 2 F-106 fighter aircraft were scrambled from McCord Air Force Base and followed behind the airliner, one above it and one below out of Cooper's view. A Lockheed T-33 trainer diverted from an unrelated Air National Guard mission also shadowed the hijacked plane before running low on fuel and turning back near the Oregon-California state line. Inside the hijacked plane, after takeoff, Cooper told Mucklow to join the rest of the crew in the cockpit and remain there with the door closed. As she complied, Mucklow observed Cooper tying something around his vest. At approximately 8 p.m., a warning light flashed in the cockpit, indicating that the aft air steer apparatus had been activated. The crew's offer of assistance via the aircraft's intercom system was curtly refused. The crew soon noticed a subjective change of air pressure, indicating that the aft door was open. Approximately 2 hours later, the aircraft's aft stair was still deployed when it landed at Reno Airport. FBI agents, state troopers, sheriff's deputies and Reno police surrounded the jet, as it had not yet been determined with certainty that Cooper was no longer abroad, but an armed search quickly confirmed his absence. It is believed that just after 8 p.m. when the air stair was activated, somewhere between Seattle and Reno, he jumped out of the back of the plane into a wooded area with a parachute and the ransom, and disappeared. Overall, there were 5 planes in total trailing the hijacked plane. Not a single one of them reportedly saw him jump, and none of them could pinpoint a location where he could have landed. FBI agents recovered 66 unidentified latent fingerprints on the airliner. The agents also found Cooper's black clip-on tie, his tie clip, and 2 of the 4 parachutes, one of which had been opened and 2 suspension lines cut from its canopy. Authorities interviewed eyewitnesses in Portland, Seattle, and Reno, all those who personally interacted with Cooper. A series of composite sketch was then developed. The man who boarded the plane actually identified himself as Dan Cooper, but an Oregon man named D.B. Cooper, who had a minor police record, was one of the first persons of interest in the case. He was contacted by Portland police on the off chance that the hijacker had used his real name or the same alias in a previous crime. He was quickly ruled out as a suspect, but a local reporter named James Long, rushing to meet an imminent deadline, confused the eliminated suspect's name with the pseudonym used by the hijacker. Another reporter republished the error, followed by numerous other media sources, and hence the infamous name D.B. Cooper became synonymous with one of the greatest hijacks in aviation history. FBI then continued the search operation, arguably the most extensive and intensive in US history, which included door-to-door search of local farmhouses, patrol boat search along Lake Merwin and Yale Lake, aerial search using fixed-wing aircraft and helicopters from the Oregon Army National Guard along the entire flight path. A submarine was also used to search the 200-foot depths of Lake Merwin. FBI even performed an experimental recreation in which Scott piloted the aircraft used in the hijacking in the same flight configuration. FBI agents pushed a 200-pound sled out of the open air stair and were able to reproduce the upward motion of the tail section described by the flight crew at 8:13 p.m. Based on this experiment, it was concluded that 8:13 p.m. was most likely the jump time. At that moment, the aircraft was flying through a heavy rainstorm over the Lewis River in southern Washington. But at the end, no significant material evidence related to the hijacking was ever discovered. On July 8, 2016, after 45 years in which hundreds of leads were probed and discarded, the FBI announced that it was suspending active investigation of the Cooper case, citing a need to focus its investigative resources and manpower on issues of higher and more urgent priority. Local field office will continue to accept any legitimate physical evidence related specifically to the parachutes or the ransom money that may emerge in the future. The 60-volume case file compiled over a 45-year course of the investigation will be preserved for historical purposes at FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. On the FBI website, there is currently a 28-part packet full of evidence gathered over the years. All the evidence is open to the public to read. It is considered as one of the longest and most exhaustive investigation in FBI history. No one actually knows the answer, or maybe someone does, but is not telling. The FBI has described him as a nondescript man. He appeared to be in his mid-40s, which if true would make him at least 90 years old by now. And probably his actual name is Dan Cooper and not D.B. Cooper. It is a huge public debate if Cooper died in the jump or not. Experienced skydivers say he would have died if it was his first jump, but if he was an expert, he may have got away with it. One experienced parachutist believed that anyone who had 6 or 7 practice jumps could have accomplished this jump. The cold weather may or may not have killed him in the woods even if he landed okay. No body or parachute related to Cooper was ever discovered. In February 1980, 8-year-old Brian Ingram, while vacationing with his family, found a rotting package of $20 bills on the Columbia River at a beachfront known as Tina Bar. In total, it was worth $5,800. FBI technician confirmed that the money was indeed a portion of the ransom, as it exactly matched the ransom money's serial numbers, and all were arranged in the same order as when given to Cooper. But till date, none of the remaining bills have ever turned up anywhere in the world. Their serial numbers remain available online for public search. In the wake of multiple copycat hijackings, the Federal Aviation Administration required that all Boeing 727 aircraft be fitted with a device, later dubbed the Cooper vane, that prevents lowering of the aft air steer during flight. As a direct result of the hijacking, the installation of peepholes was mandated in all cockpit doors. This made it possible for the cockpit crew to observe people in the passenger cabin without having to open the cockpit door. The high-flying escape has also inspired many writers, directors, and musicians. Cooper has appeared in the storylines of the television series Prison Break, The Blacklist, News Radio, Leverage, Journeyman, and Numbers, the 1981 film The Pursuit of D.B. Cooper, the 2004 film Without a Paddle, and a book titled The Vesuvius Prophecy based on a TV series. Many artists from Todd Snyder to Chuck Brodsky have written and performed songs about Cooper. The Ariel General Store and Tavern, an archive of Cooper mania in the Washington state town of Ariel, where he is believed to have landed, has kept the story alive, with an annual get-together that treats Mr. Cooper as a hero. It also includes a look-alike contest. So this was a short documentary on the infamous escape of Dan Cooper, or D.B. Cooper. What do you think? Did he get away with the money, or was he dead? I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please be sure to leave a like. And don't forget to hit that bell icon after subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the internet.